Okay, it was one of those mornings where life just wouldn't give him a break. Ethan was already running late to work. His 5-year-old daughter, Lily, was crying in the back seat because she'd spilled juice on her school uniform, and his gas tank was nearly empty. As if the universe was testing how much more he could handle, blue and red lights suddenly flashed behind him. A police cruiser. He sighed, heart sinking. He couldn't afford another ticket. Not today. Not when he barely had enough money left to buy groceries. But as the officer walked up to his window, something completely unexpected happened, something that would change both their lives forever. Hey everyone, welcome back to your channel name, where we share real and inspiring stories that remind us how powerful kindness can be. If you love heartwarming stories that make you believe in good people again, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video, and tell us your thoughts in the comments below. Now, let's get into today's story. It's one you won't forget. Ethan Thompson was a single dad trying his best to hold everything together. He worked as a delivery driver for a local grocery company, barely making enough to cover rent and Lily's daycare. Every morning was a race against time: breakfast, getting Lily dressed, dropping her off, then speeding across town to make his first delivery. That particular morning, he'd overslept after staying up late trying to fix his old car. The check engine light had been blinking for weeks. He couldn't afford a mechanic, so he'd been watching online tutorials and praying it would last just one more month. As he pulled out of his apartment complex, he noticed Lily's lunchbox sitting on the counter inside. He turned the car around to grab it, and in that rush, he didn't realize he'd rolled through a stop sign. Moments later, the siren behind him blared. He pulled over, heart pounding. Officer Grace Miller stepped out of her patrol car. She was in her mid-30s, tall, with sharp brown eyes that could read a person's soul. She walked up calmly, her expression professional but not unkind. "License and registration, please," she said. Ethan handed them over with trembling hands. "Officer, I know I was going a little fast. I'm sorry, my daughter spilled juice all over herself, and I'm trying to get her to daycare before work." Grace glanced into the back seat. Lily was sitting there, small and teary-eyed, clutching a half-empty juice box. The sight softened her expression just slightly. "Sir, I understand mornings can be rough," she said, "but you rolled right through a stop sign back there. That could have been dangerous." "I know," Ethan said quietly, rubbing his face. "It's just been a long morning." Grace nodded. "Wait here, please." She walked back to her car to run his license, while Ethan sat there gripping the steering wheel. His stomach twisted. He already had 2 tickets from last year. One more, and his insurance would skyrocket. He didn't know how he'd make it work. Lily leaned forward and whispered, "Daddy, are we in trouble?" He turned around and smiled weakly. "No, baby. Everything's okay." A few minutes later, Grace returned, ticket pad in hand. Ethan's heart sank even deeper. She looked at him for a moment, then sighed softly. "You've had a rough morning, huh?" "You could say that," he said. "Honestly, officer, I'm just trying to do right by my kid. I'm late for work, and I can't afford another ticket." Grace hesitated, then asked gently, "Where's her mom?" Ethan froze for a moment. "She passed away 2 years ago. Car accident." Grace's eyes softened immediately. She looked down at her ticket pad, then back at him. "I'm really sorry to hear that." He nodded quietly. "Yeah. It's been me and Lily ever since. I'm doing my best." Grace took a deep breath. She tore off the ticket, but instead of handing it over, she folded it and slipped it back into her pocket. Then she looked him in the eye and said something that caught him completely off guard. "Listen, if you weren't married," she began, her tone suddenly softer, almost teasing, "I'd probably invite you to grab a coffee. You look like a good man having a rough day." Ethan blinked, startled. "I'm not married." She smiled slightly. "Well, that makes 2 of us." They both chuckled awkwardly, the tension in the air breaking just a little. Then Grace said, "Tell you what. I'm not going to give you a ticket today. Just slow down, okay? And take care of that little girl." She's lucky to have a dad who cares this much. Ethan was speechless. Thank you, officer. Really? You have no idea what this means. Grace gave a small smile and walked back to her cruiser. But as she sat down, something tugged at her heart. She looked at the man and the little girl driving away and felt something she hadn't felt in years, a connection. That afternoon, as Grace took her lunch break, she couldn't stop thinking about them. A single dad working himself to the bone, still smiling for his little girl. It reminded her of her own father, a firefighter who'd raised her alone after her mom died of cancer. She knew what that kind of love looked like. The quiet strength. The exhaustion that never showed. The kind of kindness that came from sacrifice. That evening, when she got off duty, she stopped by the grocery store. And there he was. Ethan was stocking boxes near the entrance, still wearing his faded blue uniform. His shirt had a tear on the sleeve, and he looked worn out, but when Lily came running up to hug him after daycare, his whole face lit up. Grace hesitated, then walked over. Fancy seeing you again, she said, smiling. Ethan looked up, surprised. Officer Miller? Oh wow. Hi. I promise I'm not here to give you a ticket, she laughed. I just needed some milk. He chuckled. Well, I can help you find it. That's kind of my job. They talked for a few minutes, nothing deep, just small talk. But it was warm, easy. Grace found herself laughing in a way she hadn't in a long time. Before leaving, she handed Lily a little police sticker badge and said, "You take care of your dad, okay?" Lily grinned. I will. Weeks passed. Grace and Ethan started bumping into each other more often, at the grocery store, at the park, even at the diner down the street. Sometimes they'd just chat for a few minutes. Other times, they'd sit together and talk about life, loss, and trying to do the right thing even when it's hard. Ethan couldn't help but notice how Grace's tough exterior melted whenever Lily was around. And Grace noticed how Ethan never complained, even when he clearly had the weight of the world on his shoulders. One rainy evening, Grace drove past a familiar old car parked on the side of the road, hazard lights flashing. She pulled over, and sure enough, it was Ethan's. He was standing in the rain, trying to change a flat tire. Lily was in the car, fast asleep. Grace jumped out and grabbed her flashlight. Need a hand, Mr. Thompson? He laughed, soaked to the bone. I think I could use one, yeah. Together, they fixed the tire, laughing between shivers. When it was done, Grace handed him her jacket. You're freezing, she said. So are you, he replied. They both laughed again. Then, for a long moment, neither spoke. It was one of those rare silences that felt like a promise. A year later, Ethan stood nervously in a small park, holding a bouquet of flowers. Lily ran ahead, laughing, wearing a tiny white dress. Grace walked up behind her, not in uniform this time, but in a simple blue dress. Ethan smiled. You look beautiful. She smiled back. You clean up pretty well yourself. He took a deep breath. You know, if you weren't married. Grace laughed, finishing his sentence, you'd ask me out? He grinned. Yeah. But I'm glad you're not. Lily came running up, holding both their hands, and said, Can we get ice cream now? Grace looked at Ethan, her eyes shining. Yeah, let's get ice cream. As they walked together down the park path, a single dad, his daughter, and the police officer who stopped him one rough morning, the world suddenly felt softer. Because sometimes, kindness isn't just a small act. Sometimes, it's the beginning of something beautiful. If you ever wonder whether kindness matters, remember this story. One act of understanding, one moment of compassion, can change someone's whole life. Be kind. Even when it's hard. Because you never know whose heart you might heal or who might heal yours in return. Thanks for watching, your channel name. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video to help spread kindness everywhere.